Welcome back, everyone, to the Reformed Confessional Podcast. My name is John Fry, and thank you so much for rejoining us as we continue in our series on the gospel. Today, we are presenting part 2, what the gospel is and what the gospel does, following the outline, God, man, Christ response. The last time we heard about our great God and the breadth and depth of the gospel. Today, we will hear about man and how he is in desperate need of some good news. I hope you enjoy, God bless you, and join us next Monday as we will continue in our series, What the Gospel Is and What the Gospel Does.
This is the next point, man. We have God, man, Christ response. We're asking, what is the gospel? What does the gospel do? Man comes along, made in the image of God. And I want to talk a little bit of anthropology with you. You are made up of two constituents, if you will. You have an inner man or an inner being and an outer man or an outer being. Your inner person, we often call it your heart. And here's a really nice acronym for you to be able to remember this by. The word made, M-A-I-D. Your motives, your affections, your intentions, and your desires. Your motives, your affections, your intentions, and your desires. That is your inner person. Now, I would also throw your will and your thoughts in there. And I know we're not going chapter verse here, but this is an extrapolation of the Hebrew word, levav. That is heart. It is the will, the thoughts, the motives, affections, intentions, and desires. And you also have an outer man, a body. Your body is your biology. It's the parts of you that you can see. And do we not sin with God or sin against this holy God, both in our inner man and in our outer man? Think about the Apostle Paul says that sexual immorality is a sin with the body. Think of other ways that you are not glorifying God with your body. But think of all the thoughts that you've had, even today, that you wouldn't want me to know. But why would you care that I know? Because the holy God, who has proprietary rights, knows them. We have sinned. He has made us, and we've taken the two parts that He's made us with, and we've sinned against Him with them. How wicked we are. A lot of you may have heard the evangelistic tool of the Romans Road, and it begins with Romans chapter 3, verse 23. For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And we started with Isaiah chapter 59, verse 2, which says, but your iniquities have made a separation between you and your God. Do you realize with Adam and Eve that they were excommunicated in Genesis chapter 3 from the Garden of Eden? And I've shared this with this congregation before. But what God did was set the holy angel at the edge of the garden. And every step that Adam and Eve walked away from the Garden of Eden is a visual of the distance that sin puts between us and God. Your sin has made a separation between you, and here's what I love about this verse. It doesn't say between you and God. It says you and your God. Your Creator, the Holy One. He gave you an inner man and an outer man, and you sinned against Him. Romans Road continues saying, the wages of sin is death. The wages of sin is death. I shared this when I preached on Psalm something. I don't recall. I remember talking to you about it afterwards. But remember when I talked about jaywalking, $80 fine, and assault, 6 months, $1,000, and murder costs you your life? It's very similar, like proprietary rights. That just resonates with my reason. Yeah, if you made it, you own it, you get to do what you want with it. Yeah, if you break the law, there's a punishment. We call that justice. When people aren't punished, we get upset and call that injustice. Then don't be hypocritical. Be consistent with your prescription. You are the offender in the courtroom of God, and you deserve death. Now remember, I said if we don't grasp the holiness of God, we will not understand why the consequence of sin is death. There is no greater offense. That's why there is no greater punishment than death, which tells us there is no greater offense than to sin against the sinless. That's why we cringe on the inside when little babies are neglected or little children are raped. What word do we use? They're so innocent. Now we know that we are all born with a sin nature. But when I look at little Eva Mae's sweet cheeks and I hear the coos and the caws and someone trying to harm her, it's a different degree of anger and injustice than when someone tries to harm maybe myself or Pastor Stephen. I'm not saying I like those. I'm not saying they're just. But it is written on our very heart to pop to and defend those little babies. Someone sins against them, they go to prison, and the people in prison who are wicked and have broken the law murder them because it is such a wicked sin. It is even worse offense to sin against a holy God than it is that precious little baby. Not only is sinning against the holy God more wicked than sinning against the little precious baby, it is light years and eons and eons and eons greater and evil and wicked. And that's why the wages of sin is death. We don't understand the bad news enough because we don't understand the holiness of God to the degree that it is true in reality. I want to read with you in the second quote. The wages of sin is death. And oftentimes, my mind thinks of physical death. My mind thinks of funerals. My mind thinks of gravesides and cemeteries. The picture of the death that your sin begets when you sin against the two tables of the holy God is far worse than that. Paragraph 2, systematic theologian Louis Berkhoff, he describes eternal death. This is when you find yourself in hell, cast out, with no hope for the gospel to save you. He defines it in his systematic theology this way. Eternal death is, quote, he says, this may be regarded as the culmination and completion of spiritual death. The restraints of the present fall away, and the corruption of sin has its perfect work. It's the opposite of glorification. He continues saying, and I hope that you feel this, quote, the full weight of the wrath of God descends on the condemned. Here is Isaiah 59:2. Their separation from God, the source of life and joy, is complete. And this means death in the most awful sense of the word. Their outward condition is made to correspond with the inward state of their evil souls. Whew! Their outward condition is made to correspond with the inward state of their evil souls. There are pangs of conscience and physical pain, and the smoke of their torment goeth up forever and ever. See Revelation chapter 14, verse 11. There is no beer in hell. There is no football in hell. You young men right here before me, that's foolishness. People flippantly, like a bearing rolling out a machine to be a tire, reject God's proprietary rights over them, and then to assuage their conscience, try to talk themselves and believe that their eternal fate will be pleasant. Oh, God forbid. Christian, you work and live among these people. Where is your gospel witness? If we can shake our head that this is true, we can open our mouth and do something about it. God is holy and has proprietary rights. Man takes both of his constituents, his inner man and his outer man, and sins against him and deserves death. And not just my body died, eternal death. I think you said it so well on Sunday. You'll be there for 1 billion years and not be a moment closer to it ending than when you first began. It is the inverse of amazing grace. When they've been there 10,000 years, they will regret the day they bucked Jesus Christ.